Thank you so much, Carma, for jumping on the Daily Authors podcast today. It's so great to have you. And we're here to talk about your book, Public Speaking Superpowers. Unleash your inner speaking superhero and communicate your message with confidence. Thank you again, Carma, for jumping on the show.
Sure thing. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, before we jump into your book, perhaps you can just tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself, your work, and what you're up to right now.
So right now I'm going down like two different avenues that are related. One is focused around the content of the book and helping people who are newer to speaking get over their fear of speaking, hone their message, and get it out into the world. And the other lineup is helping people get their message out in writing through information products, starting with a book, sort of creating a business around a book.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. Let's dive then a little deeper maybe into your book first, I guess, and talk, a little bit more, maybe give it that 30,000-foot view on your book, Public Speaking Superpowers. Okay.
Well, my vision of it was, if public speakers were superheroes, what would their superpowers be? And I'll start with a little blog post that I wrote, and I came up with 5, and then it became such a popular post, I thought, hey, there's a book here. So I interviewed around 90 speakers who were either professional speakers or were business owners who promoted their business through speaking. And I really honed down to what the really important things were in order to be an effective speaker. And I added some more that they didn't talk about, but I thought was important. So this book is very comprehensive, and it's perfect for people who are new to speaking, although I have had some seasoned speakers read it and let me know that they thought it was really, really good. So
awesome.
I like it.
I need to pick it up myself. Want to get more into that myself. What would you say at maybe are there a few kind of overall guidelines or a few tips, I guess, you could give the listeners if they're just starting out? What would you, I guess, tell me, for example, if I haven't done much public speaking, how would you help coach me?
Well, it depends on where you are on the fear scale. If like you're terrified to speak, but you're a podcast host, so you're probably not that terrified. Although I do know that podcast speaking is very different than stage speaking.
Sure.
And there are people who are afraid of one and not the other in either direction. But the first thing is to really get to the point where you're kind of comfortable on the stage, because once you can get there, everything else is easier. And the 3 most important qualities of an effective speaker are passion, meaning you absolutely love your topic, so don't talk about stuff you're not interested in. Authenticity, that means being who you are and true to who you are. Now, yes, you want to be the best version of yourself when you're on stage, but still you. And then confidence, which is something that builds up over time. And all 3 of those are things you either are born with or can develop. And once you've got those 3, they all work together in synergy, and then everything else becomes easier.
Awesome. Those are great tips. Does the book also go into like how to get into speaking gigs and that sort of thing?
This is more about just getting the speaking down. There is a chapter at the end that goes into the business of speaking, but that's not what this book is about.
Got it. Just having that confidence, getting prepared for it.
And all the skills. I kind of broke it down into the internal powers, which are like confidence, authenticity, things that come from within you. The external powers, which are like gestures and engaging the audience. These are skills that you learn. And then there's the tool belt, which is like backdrops, visual aids, things like that, handouts, stuff like that.
Great. What would you say if the listener, or if our listeners were going to pick up your book, and if they were just to get one thing out of it, what would you encourage them with, or what would you say that would be?
That you can do this. That anybody can become at least a effective, proficient speaker. Not everyone will be like a Tony Robbins,
Sure.
But everyone can get up and get their message out of the mouth and into the hearts and minds of an audience.
Awesome. Love that message. Getting me pumped up over here.
You can do it.
All right. What about your influences? What's kind of driven you to this point and, wanting to help people with books and speak, and who has influenced you in your life to this point?
Well, when it comes to speaking, I was first bitten by the speaking bug in high school.
Hmm.
And it really came as a shock to me because when I first got up there, I mean, I was really shy, I was bullied, and the last thing I wanted to do was speak in front of all my classmates who were picking on me.
Yeah.
But I had an awesome father who coached me on speaking, and the speaking coach was awesome, and it really helped me grow. And the speaking coach actually said, "Hey, you want to join the speech team?" So my senior year in high school, I competed across the state and actually won some awards. And from then on, I've sort of keep being drawn back to it.
Yeah. No,
So that's sort of, I guess that, and I mean, my father and Toastmasters have really inspired me when it comes to speaking.
yeah, that's great. Can you speak a little more about Toastmasters? I've heard about it, but is there what's the overall idea there if people were to think about getting involved with that?
But it's an international organization where you can join a club and have a safe environment to practice your speaking skills. They give you curriculum that you can follow, and then you get little awards. I mean, I've actually gone through all of the process, and I've earned the highest level, which is DTM, or Distinguished Toastmaster. I'm
Oh, wow.
distinguished.
Congratulations.
I think it's a great place for people who really just want to get comfortable with speaking. It's not necessarily ideal if you want to become a professional speaker, unless you can learn to break away from the rules that you learn, because they're great like training wheels, but there are some clubs that sort of aren't all that into the whole authenticity thing and want you to be very corporate, and that doesn't work so well in the professional speaking world.
Yeah. That makes sense. Karma, maybe you could speak quickly to a failure that maybe you've had in your life. And I really believe a lot of the times they help us learn the most, right? Is there a story you could share, some event that happened, maybe somewhere where you failed along the line, and what did you learn from it?
It's funny you should say that, because another book just came out that I'm one of like 50 different authors there in this book, and my chapter is called Unleashing Your Voice. And I talk about my journey from an abusive marriage that really shut off my voice. And how once I was able to escape from that, how going to Toastmasters and really re-embracing my speaking helped me unleash my voice and become who I truly am. And I went through a lot of crap. I mean, that was a 13-year marriage. After 3 years, I thought, maybe I should get a divorce. But I gave it another 10 years just in case. And then when I got out of that, I don't know if you know the dynamics of domestic abuse, but it tends to make you smaller than you are. And so even though I escaped the marriage, I was still that reduced person. And so I ended up getting in another relationship, and that one ended when he attacked me.
Wow.
And I mean, he got into prison. He's out now, but it was at that moment I had this waking up moment. I went, wait a minute. If I continue on the path I'm on, the next one's going to kill me.
Yeah.
So I really spent like a year really honing in on who I was and really getting into that authenticity piece. Because when you are true to yourself, when you're true to your true north, then everything else works out. It's when you start knocking yourself out of alignment, or letting others knock you out of alignment, that things start falling apart. And that's really the big thing that I learned. And that's part of the reason why I ended up doing this book, because I'd been working on it for like 8 years.
Yeah.
And my current husband said, just get it done. And he like let me have the space, both physically, because I spread out, and time-wise, to really get the book done. And I also had some other support. And I'm really, really proud of the results.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. That's some great insights. Just that self-awareness you had. I think it's a lesson for us all to take a look inside and see what maybe we're doing, or what can we change to make our situation different. So I love that. Do you have any favorite quotes, Carma, or do you use any in the book? And could you share that with us and why you like it?
My favorite quote is, if you don't inspire, you expire. And the story behind that is, it came from a dream. I dreamt that I was walking in a dark castle, and Frankenstein's monster came up to me, and he asked me this as a question: if if you don't inspire, you expire, right? Because in the dream, I knew he wanted to go strangle somebody. But when I woke up, I'm like, whoa, that's so deep.
Yeah.
Because if you don't inspire, no one remembers you.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of become my motto.
Yeah, I love that quote. I haven't heard that one. That's great.
It's for me. So
Yeah. Love that. Well, let's talk real quick about the book writing process and see if we can give the listeners a little bit more guidance and encouragement, I guess, when it comes to writing a book. Is there anything that you wish you had known before you started writing that you know now, and maybe that would help the listeners?
The marketing. I should have planned for the marketing earlier in the process, because a lot of the marketing tasks that I did were like compressed into that last month while I was trying to get it out.
Yeah.
And so even though the book did make it to Kindle bestseller, it came to number 2 behind a woman who has her own TV show. So I still feel pretty good about that. It was a lot of hard work, and I had the flu that week. So I was like practically on my deathbed trying to get people to buy the book. And I had hired a marketing company, but all these snafus happened, and so they didn't actually start marketing it until it was too late. So a lot of the work they did didn't help that book. They set me up great for my next book, but
yeah.
Anyway, it's like plan the marketing from day one.
Yeah.
Just plan the marketing from day one so that you're working on building your author platform and your launch team and all that while you're writing the book.
Yeah.
Either that, or once you're finished writing the book, give yourself a year before you actually put it up for sale, because it's going to take you about a year to really get that marketing process all together and done. And if you want it to be successful, I mean, if you just want it to be up there and don't care if people buy it, then go right ahead. Sure, do whatever you want.
No, that's great advice. Yeah, you got to be thinking about that from the beginning for sure. Totally agree. What resources would you say helped you the most along the way? People, software, anything like that that stands out?
Well, what got me going and got me to actually do the project is I hired a mentor. Yeah. There was a mentorship program that lasted a year, which is part of the reason why the marketing was so tight at the end, because I had a deadline. I had a deadline to meet, and I had to make it. And it was just, I learned a lot. Even though I've published books before, I learned new things. Like now I know how to publish a book in hardcover, because this book is also available in hardcover. Wow. I didn't know how to do that before, so now I know how to do that. I've also learned how to do it in audiobook. That's on my list of things to do. I want to do an audiobook version of this. So I think hiring a mentor, whether it's in a group course or a private one-on-one, hiring a mentor is the best thing, because not only does that mentor teach you new things that you may not have known, but they keep you accountable so that you actually do what you want to do and you don't procrastinate.
Yeah, totally agree. Great stuff. What would you say was the most difficult part of writing a book for you?
This time it was the concept I had, because I interviewed like 89, 90 people.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And then I had to basically transcribe all those audios. Then I had to organize them, cut them up into little pieces, spread them around, put them into organized buckets, then write this. And it was just such an intense process. Not all my books have been like this. Yeah. I think it came up with a very high quality book, but boy, was it a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I would do it again unless I had staff to help me out. Yeah,
that's a lot to undertake. Yeah. Kudos to you for putting all this together, just organizing and gathering them. I know as a podcaster, it can feel the same way a little bit. But what about writer's block, anything like that? Did you face that along your journey of writing a book? And if so, what did you do to help overcome that?
I think writer's block in some ways is sort of a cop-out. You may not be able to figure out what to say next in this thing, but there's always something else you can write. So if this particular chapter is bothering me, I just go, okay, fine, I'm going to let that sleep, and I go work on something else. Yeah. I'm always writing. I write every day. And it may not get me something that I put out, but I'm writing every day. There's really no such thing as writer's block. There's writer's hiccups. There's writer's brain farts, but there's no writer's block.
Awesome. I love that. That's encouraging. Last kind of question around the book writing process. after now publishing and marketing, all the steps you had to take, what would you say the best part of writing a book has been for you?
It's going to sound silly, but holding the book in your hand physically every time is just, you just like, oh, my baby is here. You know?
Yeah.
And this is my 5th book, and yet every time it's still really, really exciting.
Awesome. No, that is a great feeling. Let's dive into our final questions here. I like to ask this guy at the end and just leave it open-ended for you. Really, if you were to step into my shoes, is there anything you would have asked yourself that I didn't?
Oh, I usually ask that question as, is there anything I haven't asked you that you want me to ask?
Yeah.
Okay. Huh.
And it's okay if not.
I can't think of anything. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries at all. It's kind of a tough one to ask sometimes.
I mean, sometimes you go like, oh yeah, you totally missed this, but I think you pretty much covered a lot of it.
Awesome.
I think you did want to ask, what was my favorite chapter? So, because I did actually think of that answer for a while.
Yes. I think I missed that. Is there a section or chapter of the book that you that stands out that you like that you would want to share with the audience, the listeners?
There are actually 2 chapters that are my favorites. One of them I had planned, which is the chapter that's all about skill versus talent. Because one thing that came out during the interviews was that some speakers felt that if you were an introvert, you weren't going to be a good speaker. And there were a few who thought that, oh, speaking is a talent, which means you can't do it unless it's inborn. But that's not true. I'm an introvert. Once you get over the jitters, introverts can be perfectly wonderful speakers. A lot of world famous speakers are introverts. It's not uncommon.
Wow.
Yes, if you're extroverted, you might get over the jitters a little bit more quickly. But the difference between a talent and a skill is a talent is something that you're natural at, and a skill is something that you learn. Speaking is a skill. Now, there will be people who have talents that lend themselves to being a more effective, more charismatic speaker. But that doesn't mean you can't be at least a proficient speaker. So speaking is a talent, and then I really did a lot of research into like sports psychology and all this other kind of stuff to write that chapter. To really, there's a lot of research on skill versus talent, like in music and sports, and so I was able to bring that into what the speaking realm. And the second favorite chapter I had, I wasn't even going to write. I didn't even occur to me to include this in the book until I was actually writing the book, and that's the whole chapter on how to overcome the fear of speaking. It's like, duh. Why was that not in the original design? But I had a lot of fun writing that chapter.
Yeah. Are there any quick tips there for our listeners on overcoming that fear? It's
take baby steps.
Baby steps.
You find out where your envelope of fear is, and you push it just a little bit at a time. A little bit at a time. Don't jump into the deep end. Because if you do that, you overwhelm yourself and you increase the fear. Plus, you set yourself up for a failure, which can make you go, oh, I'm terrible at this. No, just do it a little bit at a time. So if you're terrified of speaking in front of somebody, speak in front of a mirror. Speak in front of a video camera. Get comfortable there. Then speak in front of a friend, 2 friends, 4 friends, 8 friends, until you can get out in front of a room of people, because it's something that builds up over time.
Yeah. That's great. Great tips. Love those. And use those myself. All right, Carma. Well, maybe you could just tell the listeners what you're up to next. It sounds like you're writing, you're helping people with their books, you're helping people with coaching and speaking. Anything else that you're up to, and where can the listeners connect with you online?
Well, one project I'd like to get in the next year is the audiobook version. I'm also working on a couple of new editions of a couple of other books that have been previously published. And I've also probably got about 6 books that are on the burners that are like totally new, and who knows how I'm going to fit this all into my life, but I am a content machine, so it will happen. And you can find me at publicspeakingsuperpowers.com or carmaspence.com, and Carma is with a C.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited for you. I really believe the world needs more content, great content like you're obviously sharing. So making the world a better place and really appreciate talking to you today, Carma.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you.